Hello everybody, and welcome back to What's Been Playing, the show where we put a spotlight on select video games and answer the lifelong question of, what is really worth playing? I hope you guys enjoyed the scenery last episode, because lo and behold, back in the dorm room. And let me just say, unpacking this beast and setting it up was not easy, nor fun. Just look at all the fucking wires back there. But now it's time to end this little hiatus and get things back on track. Now, I have a few ideas on the back burner, and I was going to do something else for this episode, but I changed my mind, and I wanted to look at something a bit different instead. And let me just say for next time, I will be looking at Pokemon Legends Arceus for the next video because I've been wanting to do a review on it for a while. But Unpacking is the name of the game today. Initially, I didn't think Unpacking would be my thing, even though the game got a lot of good reception at launch. But after my girlfriend made me try it out, I was surprisingly more hooked on the concept than I thought I'd be. As a charming, addictive, and enjoyable indie game, I thought that giving it some spotlight would do it some good and help spread the word, you know? But, Benji, you may be asking, how can a game about unpacking shit be fun? Well, why don't we find out? Let's take a look at Unpacking. Now, as fun as it is to play something with loads of action or games that have engrossing stories, it's nice to have games that you can just veg out to. You know what kind of games I mean. Animal Crossing, Minecraft, Stardew Valley, etc. At times, it's just nice to take a break and just play something that doesn't require any immediate attention. Most of the time. After finishing a long or tough game, games like this are an awesome cooldown, though to me, they're not really much else. Now, I know others who can pour hours into these kinds of games, but such games can only keep my attention for so long before I eventually move on to something else. When I first heard about Unpacking, I thought it would have been just that, so I never really gave it any mind, I guess. That all changed, however, after my girlfriend made me try the game after I gifted it to her, and, well, to say that I was addicted would be an understatement. With all that backstory aside, however, the question still stands. What is Unpacking exactly? Unpacking was developed by Witchbeam in late 2021, and I've never heard of this team, so I went to the internet and yeah, that's probably why. Quite the obscure developer we got here, but hey, that doesn't mean they can't pump out a good game, right? It was announced roughly a year prior, and it was looking to be what all those cooldown type games do best, making chores seem like a fun time. And I'll just say right now, this game definitely knows how to make you feel relaxed. Not to say that games like Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley aren't, but there is usually a heavy emphasis on making money in those games. But here, you just sit back, relax, and just unpack. The game's structure is pretty simple. You play as an unnamed girl, unpacking her belongings throughout different times of her life, starting in single rooms, to dorm rooms, to unpacking entire houses. I felt very at home when I was unpacking the college dorm, trying to figure out where everything is supposed to go. Each room will have a number of boxes you'll have to open and unpack, and that's it. You unpack everything however you see fit. In a way, it also acts as a puzzle game, trying to figure out where you should put what. This game likes to advertise itself as a Zen puzzle game. Rather than a normal puzzle game that's very focused on challenging your brain and keeping it thinking, in a Zen puzzle game, it's just meant to have you relax and do things at your own pace. You'll notice that there are no score, timers, or any other distractions that could potentially give the game a more fast-paced nature. In a way, that's kind of refreshing. You just have one single task and you don't have to worry about anything else getting in the way. The levels could take you up to a few minutes to sometimes over an hour. The final level took me a little over an hour because of how many rooms there were. Soon you'll start to unpack bathrooms, dining rooms, living rooms, nurseries, etc. But as the stages get larger, it just helps to emphasize that this is a game that you can take at your own pace. The only thing that might get in your way is that some items need to be put into specific spots, which is kind of annoying, but understandable. Sometimes I'll be spending minutes trying to figure out where a specific item is supposed to go. But you know what? It's my space. I should put it wherever I want. If I want to leave forks in the electrical outlets, I should be allowed to. But man, the process of unpacking shit is just so satisfying. Any drawer, corner space, and open shelf can be used as space, which allows you to approach the process of unpacking in your own way. You can rotate objects, stack them. There are a bunch of ways that you can get the most out of the things you unpack. I went through the game unpacking things where I would put them if I lived in this space, and it was really fun and added my own personal touch to it. Some of the items you can even interact with, like this legendary mannequin dabbing pose, which is an achievement funnily enough. Some of the objects are even randomized at times. Like there were some items I found on my girlfriend's profile that I never saw when I played the game on my file. It's not much, but hey. Replayability is replayability. You'll also notice that some items are present throughout each stage, looking more used as time goes on, which is a nice touch. Not to mention, the sound design makes the process of placing stuff down so much better, surprisingly. The act of just placing items just feels good, with the sound accompanying any item you place based on the material it's made out of. And you know what? On the topic of graphics and sound, this game looks gorgeous. And I know that for indie games, the pixel aesthetic is a bit cliche, but this game takes it and runs with it. The level of detail on all the objects, the lighting, and the animations are spectacular and complement the nature of the game very nicely. And I've always had a bias for sprite-based games, but I can at least say that I can compliment its art direction, not just on bias this time. The game also has some great music that's nice to hum along to. It has a chiptune sound to it, accompanied with some catchy beats that I even find myself humming when I'm not even playing the game. Who knew that such mad beats would come from a game about unpacking items inside of boxes? I think that the level of detail too helps to carry the narrative along, which I know I didn't bring a ton of detail to at the start of the video, but I wanted to give it an entire section because I think it's one of the most notable aspects of the game. Remember in my last episode how I talked about how I think games that tell a story through detail tend to be much more impactful? This game is a shining example of that idea. Around the 4th level is when you move in with your boyfriend, and I'm sure that some people might know what I'm getting at when I bring this up, but you'll notice that all his stuff is just placed all around and not organized to accommodate for your main character moving in. Now, inherently, this doesn't sound like anything crazy, but I think one of the most important parts is when you take out your diploma, and among the plethora of wall posters and wall decorations, the only place you're allowed to put it is under the bed. After that, you move to the next stage, which is back in your childhood room. For those people who like to read between the lines, it says a lot about the environment that you moved into, and a lot about your character itself. Just within one level alone, the game's narrative has already told the player that this character's life was one with relationship issues, and it's very brilliantly incorporated into the gameplay. Eventually, you move into an apartment with someone else seemingly moving in later, but you have no idea who. It's only at the end of the game when you realize that the person who moved in was your new girlfriend, who you began to build a family with. Among its relaxing, innocent environment, a story of a woman whose major stages of life have her experiencing feelings of hope, sadness, and contentment is beautifully woven in. Its narrative is heavily grounded in realism that I'm sure many women can understand, and just like Super Metroid, shows that some games are better explained through its world in detail. A perfect way to cap off this amazingly relaxing experience. Honestly, Unpacking was nothing like I expected it to be. I'm glad that I was convinced, however, that it wasn't a spin-off of something like Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer, for example. And I know that this has led to one of my shorter reviews, partly due to the game's length. But I can say one thing's for sure, it's definitely on my favorite games list for this year, despite its short length. Now, Unpacking is a great example that studios that have never created any substantial releases before can have a first title that knocks it out of the park. A relaxing as hell atmosphere, gameplay that is surprisingly addicting, fantastic graphics and sound, and a beautiful narrative. Again, it's really rare that games of this nature happen to catch my attention to this extent, but I think that thanks to its puzzle element, I was able to get reeled into it a bit easier. It's a game that just makes you happy and puts a smile on your face. A perfect game after coming off something like Elden Ring or some other difficult game. And make sure to show which beam you support, and check the game out yourself. Not only are you supporting a studio that has a lot of potential, but you're getting a great game out of it. Honestly, Unpacking was a great experience and something that I'm glad I got to experience. And well, that's gonna do it for this time around. I wanted to ease myself back into making videos with something short after my long hiatus, but like I said, next time, Pokemon Legends Arceus is going to be the game we're going to be looking at. I am especially looking forward to that, especially with all the Gen 9 hype in the air. So with that, thank you all for watching, and I'll see yous next time. Alright, that's taken care of, but I still have some shit that I need to unpack, so what do I have next on my list? Oh shit, my toaster. I forgot I brought that. Where am I gonna put that? Just to put a toaster. What about here? That'll do.